I want to step in front because I'm going to ask you a question that's almost insensitive. You know, you're not thinking about a doc, you're thinking about Kobe and his family. But at some point, you have to think about the documentary and the footage that you've shot with him. Were there any adjustments? Was there anything? Were you able to proceed as if you would have had Kobe never passed, or did you feel like you needed to do a couple of things in advance, and obviously with the news hitting and still being very fresh in everybody's hearts?
No, it was going to be all or nothing. We had finished. We interviewed Kobe in July of 2019, a few weeks after his daughter was born, the day of the ESPYs. We interviewed him, and he was finalizing his speech that he was presenting Bill Russell with an award. So he was finalizing that speech. So he was all business that day. And we finished editing that scene, the All-Star Game scene, which we always knew was going to come in the middle of the series because the All-Star Game is the midway point in the season, and the chronological spine of the series is the 97-98 season. So we always knew that was going to either open episode 5 or 6, depending on how long it took us to tell the stories in the first 4 episodes. We finished it. It got approved, and we moved on. And then that day happened. It still hasn't clicked. I don't think it ever will. And the only change we made to it was to add the dedication to him at the top of the episode.
Sure,
which just felt right.
Yep. Okay. I want to begin. We get going. I'll run through some quick ones here for you. First off, everyone's asking what's next for you, and I asked you on the show a couple weeks ago, and you basically said, I've got an idea, but I can't talk about it, and I respect that. Generalities, though. You've gone from Andre to Michael Jordan. In your mind, do you think, I really want to do something more boutique? I want to do something different? Or if somebody approached you tomorrow and said, you can do a doc on Obama or Tiger Woods or the Pope, or are you leaning towards wanting to do something different, or are you just taking each project and not going in with any preconceived notions?
Well, everybody wants that Pope doc, Dave.
They do.
That's the Holy Grail. We're looking to pull. It's actually going to be called Holy Grail.
Right.
He's gonna have a big goblet of wine next to him when he sits in the chair.
Yes.
He's gonna have instead of a cigar, there'll be a scepter.
Dude, how many people have asked you about Michael Jordan, what he was drinking, and his bloodshot eyes? I'll bet you that's got to be top 5 question you've been asked in this whole process.
Yes, and I still can't believe that his glass does not have its own Twitter account. Someone please make that. Come on, this is irresponsible. Like you're slipping people. Come on.
All right, so Pope Doc,
the New York City pizza rat. I don't mean to make fun of that, but I would not. There is no roadmap right now. Honestly, man, this is the first day right now. Today is the first day off. And when I say off, it means that no obligations that I've had in 2020. I've thought a little bit about what's next, but even, the state of the world right now, we have a project that I'm going to EP that our producer, Jake Rogal, is going to direct for the first time. And I can't say what that project is. You'll know very soon. And I think people are going to be pumped to see it. But we don't even know when we're going to start shooting that. So I haven't made any decisions on that. I'm definitely not ruling anything out. I can't see doing like another basketball documentary. I can see maybe like producing or helping out on it, but not diving back in for 3 more years to another, superstar. But you never know. I'm not trying to be vague. I honestly, man, I probably should have a better idea of what I'm doing next. And my agents are probably frustrated by that right now, but I really, all I want to do is I'm going to go up and see my family socially distant for the first time this weekend, and I cannot tell you how excited I am about that. That's about where my head is right now.
I'm glad you don't. I'm glad. Dude, you need to take time and hang out with your girl and your dog and your family and just not be handcuffed to anything and not have ticking clocks in the back of your head. Now, that being said, if Kathleen Kennedy from Disney called you and said, Jason, I want you to direct a Star Wars movie, or somebody called you and said, I want you to direct a Marvel movie. I mean, feature film, huge budget. You've never done anything like that before, but they just come up and the money's right, whatever. Is that the type of project you would ever even think of doing?
Someday, not now.
No.
I literally don't know how to do that right now. And also, I don't know who the people in the Marvel universe are. I don't know Marvel versus DC. You don't want me directing one of those because it wouldn't go well for anybody.
Oh, wow.
I would have a very nice house and there would be eggs all over the front of it from people who actually care about those stories. But
Thor fighting Spider-Man, Superman's got blonde hair. I got you. Okay.
I don't even get your joke. I don't know what you're talking about. Superman.
Right.
And obviously, I'm in the minority. I'm not diminishing people who love those
Sure.
films. I absolutely want to get into scripted narrative film someday. That was my dream ever since I was a kid. That's been my dream. And then this kind of, it's like where they say, life is what happens when you're making plans. Well, my life has become sports documentaries. And I'm always going to have a place in, if not documentaries, specifically sports documentaries too. But the music space is something I really want to get into. A comedy documentary. There's so many comics and comedians that I admire and adore. Political documentaries. You mentioned Obama. Crime.
What do you mean the music space? What do you mean the music space? Like documentaries on bands and stuff?
I'm probably more passionate about music than I am about sports, and I live and breathe sports. But music was my first love. I was Elvis for Halloween when I was 4 years old. Like I grew up in my mom's station wagon with my ear glued to the speaker, listening to 8-track tapes. Like I grew up. My house was there's always music in my house. I learned to read by going to the record store and flipping through 45 of bands. And like getting one every couple of weeks. My mom would take me to the record store, and I'd read the top 40 sheet and see who was in the top 40. And I couldn't even see over the thing. I remember that hand coming over and handing me the sheet. So that's why the hip hop is so vital to the texture of The Last Dance, is because the trajectory of Michael in the NBA and hip hop in the pop culture is so parallel to me. And that it's exactly. I heard Run DMC and saw Michael play all in the same window of probably, a few months. And I became obsessed with hip hop, which is now golden era hip hop or old school hip hop. But back then it was not old school. It was like a new color had been introduced to the spectrum. No one had ever heard that kind of music before. Imagine if the music came out right now, you didn't know what to call it because you'd never heard that sound before. That's how fascinating it was to me. So especially something in the hip hop space, but I'm also, a huge, White Stripes fan. I'm a huge Dan Auerbach fan. I'm a huge U2 fan. I love good music, and someday, if someone gives me the opportunity, I'll do something in that space.
Would you have bitten off that 9-part Brady documentary coming up? That'd have been weird for you, right? That's the guy.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. I'm a little bit. That might have been propaganda. Then you can call me a propaganda.
I mean, that would that have been weirder though? Not without getting into the specifics. I'm joking, but would that have been a little bit weirder for you because you're a Chowd, because you're a Patriots guy, because Brady's your guy? Would that have been different, or do you still think you would have ultimately been able to separate art and artist and your personal feelings?
I definitely separate it. If anything, it's the blessing and the curse of being in sports production for this long is that we can see how the sausage is made from behind the scenes. I love sports because they bring me closer to my family and friends. That is why I love sports. I don't love sports because, I was going to start doing a profanity-laced Boston accent. I don't love sports because, and I'm proud of Boston. I'm proud of where I'm from. But, I wouldn't have nearly the same passion for the Patriots if I was just sitting there watching it on my couch by myself every weekend. What I look forward to and why I want them to make the Super Bowl every year is so that I can go home to Boston and have a big party at my parents' house with my brothers and my parents and our friends and our neighbors. Like, that's what I care about. So, yeah, I definitely would be able to tell that in any story objectively. There's no story. Dwight Gooden is really the only one, and even that would be fascinating for me because but Dwight Gooden was my hero from the time I was,
right.
When I started following sports, we got Channel 9, New York Channel 9 in Boston, and Gooden was 19, and I was 8, crazy. But this all happened in the same year. Like, when you look back on that decade, like, Gooden and Jordan and Run DMC and Curry Blow all happened within, like, a few months. These are things that are indelible to, like, who I've become and who so many people became. They all burst on the scene in a matter of months. It's fascinating to me. So, maybe something about the 80s or something about pop culture in the 80s. And I'm fascinated by celebrity and how we treat celebrities and why we revere them and what life is like for them. When I was a kid, I used to ask my mom all the time, speaking of the Pope, I used to ask her, what does the Pope wear when he's, like, not in that big gown? What does he wear at home? Does he wear jeans? Does he wear sweatpants? What time does he go to bed? Does he watch TV? Like, I had a very acute sense from the time I was a very little kid that everyone is human. And what are they like behind the scenes? I think that's why I was Elvis for Halloween when I was 4, because I was obsessed with not just his music and his persona, but, like, that this guy is a real person. And how can I know more about the real person? Elvis Presley, the person, not Elvis the superstar.
It's funny you say that, because I know this. It's like those full pajamas with the feet, and then he's got the hat with the candle. Like back in the old school. Yeah, and he actually...
like Ebenezer Scrooge.
Exactly, but the difference is that because he's the Pope, he actually has, you have the Jordan logo. He has his own logo on the breast.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
You know what market you're in, and for you to do this much for Sacramento is fantastic, and I'd love to say it's all because of your undying love for me, but you have a special connection to the city, and throughout the 5 weeks we've been talking about The Last Dance, not an interview goes by that I don't get Kings fans saying, hey, when are you going to talk to Jason? When are you going to ask him about Down in the Valley? And I promised I'd get to it at some point, and better time than ever as we wrap up. After the 10th episode hit, I tweeted out, and a number of people did, this was a phenomenal documentary on Michael Jordan. But to me, Jason and his team worked so hard on Down in the Valley, and I hate that it hasn't been shown. Have you put that to bed? Have you been able to put that to rest? Are you at ease with everything that has gone down and where that's at right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I in the same way that I told you before that I get upset in defense of my team, I get upset in defense of Sacramento fans and that city that I came to love, and people, like you and Marcos and Canal and people that I really came to respect and grow to love when I was there. And that fan base, which is as passionate as any fan base I've ever seen, and I say that as a proud Bostonian, but there's something more noble about being such diehard fans and being so steadfast when you haven't had that taste of victory, and still year after year after year after year you come back. I always said that documentary was meant for anyone who ever said, I don't like sports, I don't get it, what's the point? That was why I did that doc, was to show the passion that you guys have and the power that sports have to bring a community together. And it's got nothing to do with the ball going through a hoop. It doesn't even have to do with having a winning team. You guys had a rally, and we said it in the end of the documentary. Normally, teams have rallies for a championship. You guys had a rally just because there was more basketball to be played. Think about that. So it is what it is. It was out of my hands from the very beginning. So those decisions that were made were made well above my pay grade. But the silver lining for me is that it proved to me why I love what I do, and it wasn't because. It wasn't the night that the doc airs that I love. It wasn't that my face is on ESPN. It wasn't that people know my name. It wasn't, the premiere with a big glitzy premiere and all that. What I love about this is going and meeting new people and telling their stories and forming lifelong friendships. And that was accomplished with Down in the Valley. So 1,000 people saw it. And decisions were made that were out of my hands. And there's some things that I stand by, and there's some lessons that I learned in the making of that. But, the reality is that doc is obsolete if you showed it right now. So much has happened to the city and the franchise since that doc was wrapped that it would feel kind of out of place for ESPN to air that. Now, do I think that Sacramento fans deserve to see that? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think they deserve to see that. And do I think that we told one lie about KJ? And do I, I've heard all the hagiography and you want to talk about puff piece and propaganda criticism, but I heard it all back then, and probably way worse because it was way more graphic and way more hurtful. But I don't think there was one untruth told about. Say what you want about Kevin Johnson. His role in keeping the Kings in Sacramento, he was the hero of that story. He was the one who led the fight to keep them there. And we were not doing, that was not a story, that was not a doc about Kevin Johnson. It was a documentary about what the Kings mean to Sacramento and what sports mean to communities. So we made the conscious decision. I remember when they offered me that doc, I said, we're not getting into this stuff. And they agreed. Okay, it's not relevant to this. He was elected twice. Sacramento Bee and other papers put him through the ringer. And I certainly would do things a different way. I'm a better filmmaker and a better person and a more mature person now than I was in 2014 or whenever we started filming that. But I stand by the story, and I do feel for the fans of the Kings because I think they deserve to feel the joy that I hope the end of that movie evokes.
I know the answer to this. If you were asked to recut any part of that film, would you do it?
No.
Is there anything in this whole process of media interviews and everything as we wrap up? I promise we're wrapping up, Jason. Is there anything you haven't been asked that you were surprised at? I know that's an on-the-spot question, but really, have people done a good job asking you everything, or is there something in the back of your head you've always said, I'm really surprised people didn't pick up on this or ask me about this?
Not really, man. Honestly, I could joke and say my height and weight, maybe, but
6'4",
every aspect of this thing, I wish. Every aspect of this thing is rock solid. By the way, every aspect of this thing has been, for better or worse, picked apart. And I have absolutely no problem with, like I said before, some people like it, some people don't. They are entitled to their opinion. Certainly, when you put something that you worked this hard on something and you put it out there, it's part of my job is putting it out there. Part of your job is putting it out there. And it's in your case, I think it's a much ballsier thing to do because you have to do it every single day. And you have to come up with things to say every single day. And part of your job is opinion based. My job is not really opinion based. People are always going to say, "Oh, you told it through this lens, you told it through this lens." Listen, every documentary is told from a certain perspective. Every single one. I saw someone say that, why didn't they show Gary Payton the iPad of Michael laughing at him? Where does that end? At what point are we going to say, okay, that's enough? we could do 16 hours of people handing iPads back and forth. Sorry, I'm not sure to hear that.
Is that a bird?
Yeah.
An actual bird or a fake bird?
It's a kid who's lost, and he's got some sort of alarm, and he's calling to his father.
Okay, because I heard tweeting. Go ahead. You were saying something very important.
What I'm saying is that every documentary is told from a certain perspective. Like, you absolutely try to be comprehensive and get everybody's angle in there. So when Michael says, it's one thing, listen, here's an example. We'd be propagandists, or we'd be a puff piece, or we'd be a Michael Jordan-driven doc if he said, Horace told Sam Smith all the stuff that was in the Jordan rule. And then we went on as if that was the truth. But we asked Sam Smith, we asked Horace himself, other teammates we asked. B.J. Armstrong said it couldn't have been just Horace, because look at that book. It was a number of guys. It could have been management. It could have been coaches, other players. We covered our bases, man. When it came to the stories we chose to tell, we covered our bases, and I'm proud of that. And everyone, you're always going to say, why wasn't there more about this? Why wasn't there more about that? Well, there's a limit. And at a certain point, you have to stop and you have to be comfortable with the story that you're telling. And you're never, ever, ever going to do a story where 100% of the people say, this is perfect. I love the way they told it. So we're incredibly lucky that it's gotten the response that it got. And I am, as I said before, I'm well aware that a lot of that has to do with the time that this story was released, that people needed this. I'm surprised that there's not more cynicism about this. And I think that there would have been more cynicism, more skepticism, more scrutiny if this was released into a normal world during the finals, in which LeBron was probably going to be playing, there would have been all kinds of chatter back and forth. But this was, I think people were probably just thankful for the opportunity to look forward to something and then to argue about it the next day. And we came away, I just feel very, very lucky that we spent the amount of time that we spent trying to get this thing right, and that we put it out into the world, and that I get messages now from people all over the planet saying, thank you for this, and thank you for bringing my family together, and thank you for letting me share this with my kids, and thank you for showing me what my parents were always telling me about. Like that's what's worth it. Because this thing, listen, man, this is entertainment. I tell stories for entertainment, and I try to tell them as responsibly as. And if you don't like the way that I told the story, you have every right. You can go watch someone else's story, and the next time I tell a story, I'll try to tell it better.
Well, I set the stage at the beginning of this interview. I'll do the same at the end. It's a Thursday evening, nighttime for Jason in New York. I'm in my backyard in Sacramento. He's on a park bench or something in Manhattan. And normally when I talk to Jason, I'll have the mic and the recordings off when I get to this next part. But I'll wrap this way, and I'm going to leave it recording just because the way I want to reward you for being so kind to us. Telling so much of the story, Jason, is I want to make you insanely uncomfortable. I am so proud of you, and I hope you know that, and I know you know how proud your family is, and I've enjoyed texting back and forth with your dad throughout this whole process, and he is an unbelievable human being. You come from obviously a family that's very loving and compassionate and supportive and loyal, and I love that. I love loyalty. I hope you're proud of yourself. You took on an impossible task, and in a unique moment in the world, and you've had those messages from people all around the world, but it's true. People saying, this is the closest we've got to sports. This is the closest we've gotten to must-see TV. It was almost like the old Sunday nights with All in the Family, where everybody gather around the set and watch, Ed Sullivan. And that came, and of course, when I say you, I mean your team as well. But do you have are you proud of yourself?
Yeah. Sure. I know how much work went into it, and I know how much I cared. I know I care about every project, but for this one, I was answering to a lot of people, and I had a lot of people to make happy, and a lot of people who cared about this as much as I do. So I'm proud. I'm proud that we got to the finish line, man. But I'm more proud that we did what we set out to do, which was to entertain people and to bring people together through sports. That was the goal of this thing. So I'm proud of that.
All right, I'll take some time off now, dude. Would you? Turn your phone off. Go hang out with that gorgeous girlfriend of yours and that dog, and go somewhere. Like you said, your family. Go play golf with your dad. Don't answer your phone. I hope that's what's on tap here for you.
We'll see. I definitely. I'm going to see my family in a couple of days, and I tell you what, man, I can't wait. It's going to break my heart to not be able to give my mom a bear hug, but it's for everybody's own good.
Yep.
And soon I'll be able to, but just to be able to sit across from them, and my cousin has a big fire pit in his backyard up in Massachusetts, and we're going to sit around that, and I need to start asking other people about their lives rather than asking about my life. I need to catch up with people I haven't seen in years, because we did put our life on hold for the most part for the last 2 years, certainly for the last 2 months, like everybody did. But I sacrificed a lot of family get-togethers and holidays and baptisms and graduations and things like that for this. So I'm really looking forward to giving it back tenfold in the months to come.
Well, as you said, it's your first real day off, and you give me more than an hour of content. That's loyalty right there. I appreciate.
So this is if anyone wonders what Dave and I talk about in a normal conversation, this is about as far as you can pull the curtain back, because besides profanity, this is about it.
There's a little profanity in there, and tweeting birds and sirens and F-18s.
I can't believe I told you that huge story as that plane went over, man.
Right?
I thought I was going to take that one to my grave.
Give my love to your family, and again, so proud of you. And I know I'll hear from you privately, but I hope publicly I don't hear from you for a while. You deserve some time off, and please pass on our thanks and our love and our appreciation to the entire crew that worked on this, buddy.
I will. Thanks, man.